Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and over 1,000 FEMA camps are activated all across America. Don't believe me? Well, you're about to. What I'm going to detail for you is quite jaw-dropping, and I'm going to use statistical facts to prove to you that we already have this FEMA camp slave labor in action. Now, not to mention there are other FEMA camps that are not activated, but thousands are currently already there. What am I talking about? Well, the prison system. But let me explain before you just drop that number, because you need to hear what I'm going to have to say. First off, many of you are already well aware that the United States of America harbors 5% of the world's population. Very small number when you compare it worldwide. Now, when you consider that number, would you know that 25%, and I've done a few reports on this, but 25% of our 5% are incarcerated in prison, in jail, in a juvenile center, or the like. That is more than any other country in the entire world. We have the highest incarceration rate. Even when you consider China, we have 500,000 more than communist China. Shocked yet? Well, let me go on because it gets worse. Currently, 2.3 million people are in jails across America. There are 1,719 state prisons, 102 federal prisons, 942 juvenile facilities, 3,283 local jails, and 79 Indian County jails. Now, it is said that a majority of those convicted in prisons are for non-violent crimes. Very minuscule offenses, such as, they've had a small amount of drugs in their person, or they got in an argument with someone, but there was no violence entailed. But needless to say, they can go to prison for things internationally. In other countries, they would just get a slap on the hand, or they would be on probation for a certain amount of time. So why is it in America that our prisons are so high and so full? Well, that's because they're treated like FEMA camps, like slave labor camps. And here's the thing, lobbyists, and I'm going to show you some statistics on this, are lobbying for harsher punishment on crimes in order to get more people into the jail system. And one day it's going to come around to all of us. But they want to push more and more people into the jail system for longer amounts of time so they can have their workforce for simply almost zero to nothing. Yes, it is a game, and it is a for-profit organization. Now check this out. Why is it that when crime goes down in some areas, the prison population goes up? Well, statistically speaking, that is exactly what's happening. And let me just read to you a quote, because I found this in a report, and it says, "The private contracting of prisoners for work fosters incentives to lock people up. Prisons depend on the income. Corporate stockholders who make money off prisoners' work lobby for longer sentences in order to expand their workforce. The system feeds on itself." Does that sound eerily similar to something in Nazi Germany? While there aren't an actual, life or death situation to where they're putting you in gas chambers or anything of that nature, they are paying these prisoners dirt cheap to zero. Here's what the average prisoner makes at some of these. And I quote, this is from 2017 from Prison Policy Initiative. The average inmate makes 93 cents an hour to 16 cents an hour. And on a weekly basis, they bring home $5.25 to $8.75 a week. That's cheap labor force. But here's what they're not telling you. There are organizations who basically hire these inmates for cheap labor in order to get more money in their pockets. And they also lobby people to push your Congresses and senators to crack down on these criminals so they continually have that that workforce availability. They want more and more and more people in jail for minor crimes, and they're going to keep them there. And I'll prove that in a moment. But here's an example of some of the companies that are taking advantage and lobbying for these things. And I'm going to share a list. McDonald's, Walmart, BP, IBM, Boeing, Motorola, Microsoft, AT&T, Wireless, Texas Instrument, Dell, Compaq, Honeywell, Hewlett-Packard, Nortel, 3Com, Intel, Northern Telecom, TWA, Nordstrom's, Exxon, Revlon, Macy's, Perrier, Target, Victoria's Secret, Verizon, Starbucks, Wendy's, and others, all of which are utilizing this force, and many of whom are sending lobbyists to keep you and your loved ones in jail as long as possible. Think about this. When an average person goes into jail for a minor crime, they get in there. Well, all of a sudden, now they have a record that haunts them for life. Not temporarily, but for life. Doesn't matter if it's a nonviolent crime or not. You're on there for life. That said, now you get out of jail. Say you're in jail for 5 years or prison for 5 years or whatever it is, you get out. Well, you're not going to get hired by any agency because now you have a record. You're a criminal. And now you're on the list. And therefore, they have the hardest time getting jobs and getting back into the workforce. Why? Because the public and the laws make it impossible. And the lobbyists from the companies that I just read to you make it impossible. Why do they do that? Well, they want the criminal back in the jail system so they can control their lives, so they can basically work for nothing, so they can continue to do what these companies and organizations are paying them to do. Paying them, mind you, even worse than third world country wages. Now, that said, I'm not saying let's pay them full prices or anything like that. What I am saying is this. If lobbyists are attempting to get more and more people in jail, and if America has more people in jail than any other country, then what we can safely say is that there is an agenda in America to jail as many people as possible for the lightest of offenses. You see, the problem with this is when people lobby, they're going to attempt to get more work, and they're not going to let it go. Why? Because it's more money in their pocket, and they make a mad amount off of people in these jail cells. And there's even ones out there that guarantee a 90-some-odd% filling rate. How are they going to do that? Well, through you and I, of course, committing nonviolent crimes or things that, well, maybe we should just, have parole for, or whatever the case may be. But the ultimate agenda here is put more people in jail. So if you commit the lightest of crime, or your child commits the lightest of crime, forever amen, well, they have a record that haunts them. And now they're part of the system in the lobbyist game of chess. That's a problem. That's a Fema camp, in my opinion. While it doesn't have the gas chambers, it does have the ability to say, hey, let's lock up anyone and anyone for anything. And when you consider that communist China locks up journalists for minor offenses, and yet they have a less incarceration rate than America, 500,000 less, we've got a real problem on our hand here in America. And the problem is our jail system, our prison system, and it's being utilized by lobbyists. Please spread this message far and wide. We cannot continue to let it thrive at these levels. Now, that said, obviously, there has to be a system in place for criminals. Should they have work? Sure. But having lobbyists take advantage in that manner and making it a game of chess where more and more people are incarcerated for the pettiest of things. I mean, think about it. You yourself have probably been arrested for some idiotic thing, or someone you know may have been arrested for some idiotic thing. Maybe you got lucky and didn't get to jail at that time, or maybe you know someone who is part of this crime. But let's not even mention this. What I didn't say earlier that I need to add is that even in these jails, they now charge inmates for things like shoes. Well, if you pay $45 for a pair of shoes and you're only making $5 a week, well, how many weeks are you going to have to use to pay off that pair of shoes? Also for medical, some of their medical prescriptions are being charged as well. So by the time the average jail person gets out, they have a debt behind them. And even worse is sometimes they're rounded back up for inability to pay that debt. Now, let me just read to you a quote that I found, and it states this: 15 states with the highest prison population by the Brennan Center for Justice, this is who put it out, found that all 15 states sampled have jurisdictions that arrest people for failing to pay debt or to appear at debt-related hearings. So there you have it. People are still being sent to debtor's jail, if you want to call it that. But that's kind of what's happening when 15 different states, according to this report, with the highest prison populations, send people back to jail for not paying the debt owed to the jail when they originally left there with the debt that they never could earn enough money to pay. That's a problem. And here's what it all boils down to as well. Keep in mind, your tax dollars are paying for this. We dish out about $39 billion a year in order to keep these prisons running. Well, there are things that need prison. We need to have jails, we need to have prisons, and we need to lock people up for things. This is above and beyond. And this is drawing a line in the sand. And trust me, if something isn't done about it now, and we don't share this FEMA camp information, they very likely can expand. And one day, it'll come around on your family, especially with lobbyists, like the list of people that I read to you, who utilize that service and lobby to put you and others behind bars for their benefit. Well, please share this far and wide. If you like what you heard, please hit that subscribe button. And just a note, everything that I referenced in this video, I'm going to leave links below so you can check it out for yourself. It's under the words for more information. Make sure you go there and click on the links, read the statistics, and share them far and wide. Now, I got the idea for this video, and I want to thank whoever left the report on Be Candid. There was one up there at the top on jail, and I'm going to leave that video link below in the description box as well. So thank you for the tip on that. But I've done a report about this before, but I really thought it needs to be brought up again because we just failed to miss it. They may not be the physical FEMA camps, but in a sense they are. When you're working for dirt cheap and you're in there for a non-violent crime, something that internationally you wouldn't go to jail for, but you're in jail here and we've got a higher crime rate than anyone in the world, that's an issue. Well, thanks again for tuning into my channel, and please don't forget to check out my partners here. Foodforliberty.com/Haven has all your food storage needs, and please, please, please make sure you're prepped and ready to go with food, because you never know what tomorrow holds. You never know when they'll start activating more FEMA camps, if you will. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. This is Lisa Haven, signing out.